Ra Hogan for the Boxing Voice. I'm delighted to be here with Sky Sports Boxing Supremo Adam Smith and the darts, although I can't say I know much about that game.
The darts, yeah, nearly darts time. So it's finishing off this boxing tour, and then I'll be away for 2.5, 3 weeks in the Alexandra Palace on, having a bit of fun over Christmas.
So exciting times for the new year with Boxer, your new partners. It's always exciting when you're in a new relationship, if you'll excuse the salacious analogy. You mentioned there Josh Taylor. Obviously we said enough about how great a fighter he is. In terms of making someone a household name, I mean, you've seen it with AJ.
Yeah.
What does it take to make a fighter a household name? Because I'm sure AJ won't mind me saying this, Josh Taylor arguably is a better fighter, but outside of boxing fans, how well is he known?
Well, it's a really good question, and I think that's part of the magic of what we try and do at Sky. And sometimes it works amazingly well, sometimes it's a bit bumpier. But I think we've got a great track record in doing that. We took Ricky Hatton from start to pretty much finish, and, along with Frank Warren, his promoter, in the early days, we sort of snowballed him. And there's many ways of doing it, but obviously one of the things is you engage the Premier League audience, and I think that's important. The football crowd obviously like the big fights, and there's crossover with other sports as well. Darts is one as well, but football mainly. I think we've got the breadth and width at Sky, on Sky Sports News, on digital and social, to really drive boxing into the casual hearts as well. So it's a challenge, like you said about the new relationship. We worked with Eddie and Matchroom for 10 years, and it was fantastic, and really enjoyed it. But things come to an end, and you've got to move on. And we've hooked up with both Boxer and Top Rank, and I've really enjoyed the first 6 months of working with both our new partners. Boxer are very entrepreneurial, very innovative, very passionate. Top Rank, of course, have a phenomenal track record, and they still go from strength to strength and have the biggest name. So really enjoyed the last 6 months, and now it's up to us to work our magic at bringing maybe some of the big names in boxing to become big names in sport generally. And yeah, we've done that with Ricky. We did it with David Hay, with Anthony Joshua. I think there's a similarity with Carl Frochia and Josh Taylor. So Carl was on Sky in the early days. We've had a bit of Josh. He went away around the world. He took on the World Super Series, or a lot of the World Series, and a lot of the super middleweights then. He came back after, I think it was the Arthur Abraham fight, for Glenn Johnson, for Andre Ward, and then for Butte. But when we got him back, he was well known in boxing. He was probably the number 1 or number 2 in boxing, certainly at that time, a bit like Josh. But he wasn't known down the streets and for the football fans. So I said to Carl, he wanted to be on Box Office. I said to Carl, you've got to be on Sky Sports for a while. We've got to build you up, get you that audience, and then that's when you can become a pay-per-view star. I think similarly we've got to do the same with Josh. I think if we have him on Sky Sports for 3 or 4 fights, I think then he builds up a big audience. Obviously there's he's got personality, he's got character. There's a lot of things you don't know about Josh Taylor. We've got to bring those out. We've got to utilise our shows like Soccer AM, and get him involved in the different programmes at Sky, and get him following big football matches, both in Britain and both in England and Scotland, and hopefully we'll turn him into the star he deserves to be. He's got to do the job and keep winning in the ring. His promoters are the ones that have got to get the big fights, but we're the ones that can build him into a big star, and I believe we can.
I mean, we all know about the politics of boxing between promoters. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the back and forth between Ellaby and Hearn, for example. What about between the broadcasters? The reason I ask, I know you've mentioned for Chris Eubank, for example, you want him to be a superstar, and you've mentioned bringing Triple G over for possibly a big world title fight for him. How willing would Dazn be to risk losing one of the middleweight belts to another broadcaster? Obviously Triple G at nearly 40 years old, he's probably more vulnerable than at any point in his career. Would they not prefer to feed him to someone in-house?
Well, as you know, the boxing is a minefield. There's huge amounts of politics and agendas, and the different ways promoters work. And sometimes you try and get promoters together, and it's very difficult. I think what Ben Shalom's doing at boxing is he's already got a co-promotional working agreement with Wasserman, which has brought us Chris Eubank. They're working together on this show with Top Rank. It's fantastic to see some collaboration. I think that's really important. But look, it's difficult, and you've got to sort of chart a way through these things. For Chris Eubank Jr., I believe he can become a big star, a big name in the sky. But really, it's up to Wasserman and to their relationship with Boxer and Boxer's relationship with us, and everybody to sort of move in that right direction. I think we're all set on Liam Williams. I think that's a great fight. I think it's a really difficult fight for both of them, and let's see where we are after that fight as far as Chris goes. But as far as the actual boxers, and who the world champions can come over, that's really up to the promoters. We're the broadcasters. We put on the event. It's up to Ben and to Calais from Wasserman and that relationship. It's up to Tom and Bob from Top Rank to come to us and say this is what we can do, and we all have a chat about it. We talk and we feed stuff in, but ultimately we're the broadcasters. So that's a question that probably they're best placed to answer. But of course we want Chris in massive fights, yes. Would we like to see him against Golovkin if he comes through against Liam Williams? 100%.
Could you make the Eubank v Charlo fight? I know the PBC often don't like to work outside of their own stable.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, I've got a great relationship with Araceli Viegas, who does all the international rights for Al, and they've got a terrific stable. And we never say never to anyone. Of course, we've got a deal with Top Rank, so that's slightly difficult. But ultimately, we've had a fight with Pacquiao and Ugas, which is the PBC fight already in this new era. We're open to everything. So as long as Ben is, which he is, and as long as Top Rank and they come to us with all the American stuff, the global stuff, as long as we can work a way of making sure that our partners are there and are collaborating with others, that's great. Yeah, bring it on. The more the merrier.
So just going back to Josh, what's the approach going to be? Are we going to be looking to see him in big stadium fights, sort of in the spring, summertime, up in Scotland? Is that the ideal sort of route?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because obviously he's a top-ranked fighter, and I'm sure they'll want him to fight in New York and in Vegas. While we want that, we also want to build him in Britain, in Scotland. That's his place. And I think for me, I'd like to see him fight, 2-3 times this side of the pond. But it may be that we have to pop back and forth a bit. Obviously, the time zone is important. The back of football is very important. And as you say, I mean, a stadium or maybe Edinburgh Castle would be great, wouldn't it? So, a big summer fight in Edinburgh Castle, Sky Sports, would be fantastic. But obviously, the big fights come with big money, so we have to look at each stage as and when we get there. And the most important thing is that he's back in the ring on Sky against Jack Catterall on February the 26th, and we'll see where we are after that.
And if Jack pulls off the upset, does he inherit all of Sky's backing, or will you be looking to rebuild Josh?
Well, of course, that's Josh Taylor's top ranked fighter, so we work with who Boxer and Top Rank have. But of course, if Jack again becomes undisputed, champion, 10-stone champion on February 26th, everybody's going to be after him. So, he's sitting just behind us. So I'm sure he's looking at just winning that fight and the belts. But you can't look too far ahead. As Josh set up on the stage today, Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos, it's a prime example. Lopez beats Lomachenko, and then no one gives Kambosos much of a chance outside his own team than what he did. So I think we've got to look at that on the morning of the 27th. Let's see where we are. Let's get this fight done and dusted. The 26th is a big night. It's a big night for Josh. It's a big night for Jack. It's a big night for Sky Sports, and we'll see where we are after that.
Has much been made in terms of the undercard for the Khan fight and for Josh's fight? Is it going to be a thing?
Yeah, that'll all be announced in due course. We're looking at some really exciting fights on both of them, and names, and maybe some professional debuts, maybe some Sky debuts. There's all sorts of things being cooked up for both Khan, Brook and for Taylor Catterall, but we just need to we've got the main fights announced, and then we'll work on the rest of the night.
Right, fantastic. Adam, thanks for your time. Thanks for being to the Boxing Voice.
Pleasure. Anytime.
If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. as always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, from title, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.